Hello, and welcome to the Lucy Liu Show, the fueling station for your mind, business, and life. And now, here's your host, Lucy Liu.
Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you for tuning in another episode. If you're tuning in, may all kinds of blessings follow you around all day. May love, joy, and peace be right beside you. Today on the show, I have my guest, Reina Rose. Reina is a coach, speaker, an international best-selling author, and the show host of Roku TV show Soul Nutrition. She grew up in the jungle, traveled around the world, visited countless monasteries, and now is passionate about sharing her unique experiences to help people live a more fulfilling life and nourishing their soul. So without further ado, here's Reina. Welcome to the show, Reina.
Thank you, Lucy. It's such a joy to be here.
Okay, so you are all about nourishing the soul. Was there a point in life where your own soul was lost that you had to make this change?
Yeah, I mean, there's been various points, but the most poignant one was my 24-year-old brother. I was 27. We were best friends. We grew up in the jungle growing up. I always joked that we were each other's best friend because we were each other's only friend half the time. And he died suddenly in a motorcycle crash 4 hours after we had been at brunch together. And I was just crushed. And before that, I had really been in this like false positivity lifestyle that, you know, it was beyond the kind of positive that you are, so genuine. And mine was like, I just have to keep saying these mantras because my life, I need to keep it on the surface because I couldn't go deeper. And when my brother died, all of that false shell of positivity just broke. It was shattered. And I had to start discovering what really nourishes the deep down part of my soul. And I began to meditate and get into contemplation and meet with my spiritual teacher and begin to connect truly with myself, with higher power, and with other people that I had always kept it on the surface before, and I didn't even know it.
And what helped you along the way?
Well, what really helped me was, so I had started this positivity group I called the Happy Women's Society. And, you know, it was well-intentioned, but again, it was my fear of being anything but happy and positive all the time, and not really dealing with life, right? And so one of the girls from that group, after my brother passed, I had gone from what people called the happiest girl they ever knew to like a zombie shell of that girl. And she said, even though she hurt for me and she was really sad, she said, it was the first time I saw you as human and not bulletproof. And the first time I felt comfortable opening up to you about my own problems. And that was crushing. You know, that was like, what? I didn't think that I was becoming this impenetrable wall of positivity that nobody could tell me, you know, their sorrows too. And I really lacked empathy until that awakening where she said, you know, this time that you were at your lowest was the first time I could relate to you and open up to you. And so it made me help still be positive, still see the best in everything, of course, but also be real about the struggles and be real about, you know, this part was really hard to see the positive until it worked out, you know, and just being honest about the highs and the lows of life.
And reading through your bio, you traveled internationally and visited numerous orphanages and monasteries. What's the most important thing that you've learned throughout those travels?
Wow, you know, I have been blessed to just travel the whole world most of my life. And I would say in the monasteries, I really found the value of silence and hearing nature all around me. By about the third day of being in a silent monastery, I can hear the blades of grass turn into a symphony all around me as if they're little violins. And I think that so the simplicity in happiness, because also in Russia, when I'm with my orphans, you know, these people have nothing and they are so joyful, so happy to see me. We play music and dance around the farmhouses and we don't have anything to do it with, just the basics. And, you know, you got food, shelter, and a good attitude. You've got a great life.
Wow, that was powerful. And you were also a former fitness professional. How
Yeah.
has that
So
affected you?
there's this part in my book, and I say, oh, what was it? My favorite movie growing up as a 7-year-old was Buns of Steel. Not a movie, you say? But I used to steal my mom's Jane Fonda videos, and they were dancing to me. I would like dance around the living room and learn about burning glycogen sugar. And I just had so much fun doing that. And someone, when I was in college, was like, why don't you try being a fitness instructor? I think you'd have fun. And I did. And I just loved, it's funny because I like natural workouts a lot better. Like I would rather be kayaking or doing something like this. So I would kind of relate to my clients like, look, I hate this just as much as you do. Let's make it fun, fast, and get the heck out of here, And so we'd make it fun, keep it engaging. And, now that's kind of what I try to do for the soul. Like not everybody's down for the kind of soul work that it really takes to dive deep. There's some parts that are a little dark and scary when you start to dive deep. That's why we don't do it as a culture. But if we can make that a little bit more enjoyable and make the process rewarding, at least, then we can connect on a deeper level and not be just, facade to facade, but truly soul to soul.
That's beautiful. What's one thing you wish you had known when you began your journey to searching for your soul?
I wish I had known. We all say it's about the journey, not the destination. We all say that, but I think we don't really own it. I wish I would have known how to enjoy the journey more, not just go from destination and goal to goal, but enjoy. And that's something I say now as one of my main mantras for life is I want to be so present in every single moment that it's as if I lived 1,000 lifetimes. And that's what I wish I had known, how to be present and enjoy each moment on the way to each goal.
That's so beautiful, girl. Let's talk about your book. What is it called?
It's called Sin Tastes Good. And the subtitle is Nourishing Your Soul in an Empty Calorie World.
And let's talk about that a little bit more. What are the empty calories?
Sure. So, it's funny. I got asked this by my publicist today. She said, how did you come up with that title? And I said, I think it was kind of one of those aha in the shower moments. I had been around a bunch of friends and family, and they were all kind of complaining about life and how this is impossible and that didn't work out. But they were doing such bad decisions. And I'm like, that's like eating a gallon of ice cream right before bed every single night and complaining that you're fat. Like, look at what you're doing, and so I realized, but the ice cream tastes good. There's something fulfilling in that moment. Like it might give you a bellyache an hour later or even 10 minutes later, but something in that moment tastes good. And so whether it was like gossiping in that moment that tasted good for their soul, because it was kind of like putting down someone else, or if it would, these things I would call, and in the book, I define sin as it's supposed to be defined, which is just missing the mark. We don't need to add guilt and shame onto that. And so maybe they're missing the mark by just taking the lazy path rather than what was going to be good for them later on. And then, sit around and complain about why it didn't work out. And so that's why I named the book Sin Tastes Good. Because you know what? The pizza tastes good in the moment. The ice cream tastes good in the moment. And, I'm also like not against having junk food now and then at all. And we need to be graceful with ourselves in our bodies and our souls. But if we're constantly putting in junk and then wondering why we feel lethargic and apathetic and not living our best lives, we need to acknowledge that and see what kind of junk am I putting in? And if I change that, would I have a better outcome?
So I was in a mastermind call with our group, and guilt and shame was one of the first things that came up because we're putting on a summit next year and we're brainstorming the topics that we're going to speak about. And I think shame and guilt came up numerous times for women. It comes in all different forms. You feel guilty about everything you can do.
Yeah.
You can feel shame about every action you take in life if you choose to.
And I mean, I think our society and particularly religion has really been set up to shame us for anything. Now we're starting to realize how much we've slut shamed and fat shamed and all kinds of shamed of things that, it's ridiculous, or things you can't even help, and people are being shamed for it. And we really look back again in religion, you see all this guilt and shame and guilt and shame, and you got to feel bad for this and bad for that. But really, I come from a Christian perspective. We look at Christ came to give grace, came not to say like go around and murder people and don't feel bad about it. Nothing like that. But, like we're all human. No one can live the perfect life. And so have grace and try to do better the next time. And so sin, the real definition of it, when we get down to the Greek, means missing the mark. And we think of archery. And so you think if you've ever maybe at camp as a kid tried archery, you probably didn't hit the target the first time, but you don't call that kid a failure and tell him he sucks and walk off the field, right? What you do is you say, hey, like try to aim a little more left, and I think you'll get it. And I think that's what we've really missed in spirituality is we say like, oh, you didn't do it perfect. You need to just call yourself a failure and walk off the field. When instead we can say, hey, you didn't hit the mark, but if you go just a little bit to the left, I think you'll hit the target this time. Let's try a new avenue. Because when you guilt and shame, people just walk off the field. Like, I'm no good at this. I'm going to stop. And so I think it's so important to take the guilt and shame out of it. And this doesn't mean we just want to keep missing the target and keep missing it up. It means, okay, what do I need to tweak so that my life hits the target and I live that heaven on earth that I'm shooting for?
Heaven on earth. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I love that terminology. And failure is an event. You can fail multiple times, in businesses, or in some people consider their marriage failures, but it's not a word to describe you. Yeah. So you can even have failures, but it doesn't make you a failure. It's not a terminology to describe a person. It's only a simple event.
Absolutely.
And it can be an event that hasn't finished. So at the end, this event can still be successful if you choose it to be.
Absolutely. And there's no successful person who hasn't had many failures. In fact, almost the opposite is true. If you don't have many failures throughout your life, you may end up being a failure, but, to be a success, you really have to go out and take a lot of risks, take some leaps, and fail sometimes, and then fail better next time and fail better next time. And that's where, when it comes to lifestyle and behaviors and things, the whole book is not to say this is the right way and this is the wrong way. It actually doesn't name any sins, and it doesn't answer any questions. What it really does is ask new questions, because a lot of times we haven't asked ourselves these new questions that will help us see what we really want on our individual journey. And it's, if you want, I'm just going to use the example of a loving family with a great husband and a couple of kids in a house that's paid off, maybe even. Probably one night stands and racking up a bunch of debt isn't going to get you there. If you have different goals, then go ahead and do those things. But if your goal is, loving relationship, monogamy, and no debt, like racking up credit cards and, sleeping around isn't maybe your way of getting there. And so it's not saying, if that's someone else's goal, do your thing, chicken wing, but, and that's also the thing, is having grace with others, that their goals aren't your goals. And that's okay.
Yes, absolutely. We give grace to others and ourselves.
Right.
But you want to be with people you want to be surrounded with people who have the same goals and visions as you.
Definitely. And again, we go back to that shaming. Say your vision is the family and the monogamy and all. You don't slut shame the person next door. You don't fat shame someone because you're in shape and they're not. You just live your life the best you can. And if you're an example and an inspiration to someone who wants to get in shape, awesome. But you don't say, hey, I'm in shape and you're not, and you need to be like me. And I think especially in religious circles, that's kind of what we've done. And really want to take that out of the vocabulary, is that I did this so great and you need to be like me. But instead, I'm living my best life. I'm super joyful. And now you want to ask me questions because you're like, hey, you're shining and I want to have that beautiful glow that you have. It's not we don't need to force our beliefs or our lifestyles on people, because when we shine so brightly like you do, Lucy Lou, like people just want to have a piece of that. And so you don't have to go out and say, hey, I'm positive, I'm great, and you need to be positive too. People see it in you. People see how brightly you shine. And they said, I want some of that. I'm going to hire you as a coach because I want what you have. That's what Sin Tastes Good is all about, is how do we live in a way that makes people want what we have? And then we can share it because they're asking for it.
Yes, and we're not just bragging. And it's not bragging if it's the truth.
That's right. And it shines so brightly that, you talk about it naturally. You don't have to brag.
I love it. So on those low days that you might have, what's a favorite quote that you go by?
Well, one of my favorite quotes, not necessarily for a low day, is just the grass is always greener where you water it. But for a low day, honestly, it's not necessarily a quote. It's more of silence. One thing I really like to make a practice of is feeling my emotions. Like I said, I really had a history of kind of skipping over them and just trying to put a happy sticker on top. And sometimes I'll even go into fasting, where for me, when my brother died, I unintentionally fasted for a month. So if I do like a 3-day fast, I almost never actually get hungry. But I'll notice I'll go to the cupboard or the fridge and I'll open it up and I'll stare into it and I'll realize, wait a second, I'm fasting. And what I ask myself next is, what emotion am I trying not to feel by going to the fridge or the cupboard? And usually it's frustration, like you deal with a lot with your clients. I'm stuck in this place. But if you don't acknowledge the stuckness, if you don't acknowledge the frustration, then you just keep going through frustrated with happy stickers on top. And you never solve what's frustrating you or keeping you stuck. And so for me, it's not necessarily saying anything, but listening what comes up. Am I stuck? Okay. Where am I stuck? And asking deeper questions so that I can figure out where I need help and then go get the help I need. Maybe call up Lucy Liu and say, hey, I need some coaching. I'm a little stuck here. Can you help me out? And because we can't see our own blind spots, we need help. We need coaches around us. And so I think it's important to get still, figure out what you're feeling, and get the help you need.
Thank you for giving us that wisdom. Where can our audience find you at?
So they can go to my website, which is www.reina-rose.com, which is REINA-ROSE.com. And the book release is coming out Thanksgiving 2020. It will be on Amazon. Sin Tastes Good is the main title, Nourishing Your Soul in an Empty Calorie World. And then you can find me on Instagram too. I'm the Soul Nutritionist with the little underscores under the word. And you can keep track of giveaways and all the times that the book's launching. I think we're going to create a course around the book for those who just can't get enough. So you can find me website, Instagram. Also, if you are watching Lucy Liu right now and you're just really loving what you're hearing, feel free to email me. My email is the same, reina@reina-rose.com. So I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. To all the beautiful souls listening, thank you for joining me on this episode of The Lucy Liu Show. When I'm not podcasting, I am coaching high-achieving women in life transitions, getting unstuck, kissing overwhelm goodbye, and living a more joyful and fulfilled life through strategic goal setting and mindset transformation. It would mean the world to me if you subscribe, rate, or share this with a friend. And don't forget to join me for the next episode. Remember, there is always a way and more blessings are coming your way. For free resources and show notes, head over to lucyliucoaching.com.